The year was 2082, and Hanoi had transformed into a sprawling metropolis of gleaming skyscrapers and floating gardens. At its heart stood the Institute of Cellular Biology, a towering structure of glass and sustainable bamboo composites that reflected the orange-gold rays of the setting sun. Within its walls, Dr. Lin An hunched over her workstation, her delicate features illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic DNA strands rotating slowly above her desk. "Run the sequence again," she instructed the lab's artificial intelligence system. At 32, Lin An was already one of Vietnam's most brilliant genetic researchers. Her reputation built on a series of groundbreaking papers on hereditary memory encoding. Sequence analysis complete," the AI responded in a soothing, feminine voice. "No anomalies detected within standard parameters." Lin An frowned, tucking a strand of her shoulder-length black hair behind her ear. "Expand parameters. Look for patterns that don't match conventional genetic markers." For 5 years, she had been pursuing a theory that human DNA contained more than just physical traits, that somewhere in the endless combinations of adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine lay encoded memories, experiences passed down through generations. Most of her colleagues dismissed the idea as pseudoscience, but Lin An remained convinced. "Dr. An," called a voice from the doorway. "It's past midnight. You should rest." She glanced up to see Nguyen Tuyet, her research assistant, a bright young woman barely out of university who shared her fascination with cellular memory. "Just one more sequence," Lin An replied with a tired smile. "Go home, Tuyet. I'll see you tomorrow." After Tuyet left, Lin An reached for the small refrigerated container beside her workstation. Inside was a vial containing her most precious research material, a sample of her mother's DNA. Her mother had passed away 3 years ago from a rare neurological condition, and Lin An couldn't shake the feeling that the answers she sought were somehow connected to her mother's genetic code. "Run comparison analysis between maternal sample and historical database," she instructed, rubbing her tired eyes. The AI complied, and Lin An watched as thousands of genetic sequences flashed across the holographic display. She was about to call it a night when the system suddenly paused. "Anomaly detected," the AI announced. "Unknown sequence pattern identified in maternal sample." Lin An's heart raced as she enlarged the highlighted section. "What kind of pattern?" "Pattern does not match any known genetic marker. Structure suggests non-coding DNA, but organization indicates potential information storage." She leaned forward, her fatigue forgotten. "Can you isolate and enhance?" The sequence expanded, revealing a complex pattern unlike anything she had seen before. It wasn't random. It had structure, organization, almost like memory, she whispered. Lin An's hands trembled as she initiated a deeper scan. The lab's quantum computer hummed to life, processing the mysterious sequence through experimental algorithms she had developed for her research. Hours passed as the system worked, and Lin An dozed off at her desk. She was awakened by a gentle chime. "Analysis complete," the AI announced. Lin An blinked awake, momentarily disoriented. The holographic display had transformed. Instead of genetic code, it now showed fragmented images, blurry, disjointed, but unmistakably visual data. "What am I looking at?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "The algorithm has translated the genetic sequence into sensory data, as per your theoretical framework," the AI explained. "Preliminary results suggest encoded visual and emotional information." Lin An stared in disbelief at the images. They showed glimpses of a landscape she didn't recognize: mountains, forests, and what appeared to be ancient structures. But more disturbing were the emotional signatures attached to the images: fear, urgency, desperation. She had theorized that if memories could be encoded in DNA, they would be stored as sensory and emotional data rather than coherent narratives. And now, here was evidence. Not just any evidence, but encoded in her own maternal lineage. "Save all data and implement maximum security protocols," she instructed, suddenly aware of the implications of her discovery. If DNA could store memories, and if those memories could be accessed, the potential applications and dangers were immense. As dawn broke over Hanoi, Lin An finally left the lab, her mind racing with possibilities. She didn't notice the sleek black car parked across the street, nor the woman inside who photographed her as she walked to the transit station. In the downtown headquarters of Gencor, the largest biotechnology corporation in Southeast Asia, a notification appeared on the monitor of Tran Hu, head of competitive intelligence. "Unusual activity detected at Institute of Cellular Biology. Dr. Lin An accessed high-security servers at 3:47 a.m. Multiple terabytes of data processed." Hu smiled thinly. Gencor had been monitoring Dr. An's research for months, aware of its potential value. Perhaps it was time to take a more direct interest in her work. The next morning, Lin An arrived at the institute earlier than usual, eager to continue her analysis. She was surprised to find Dr. Min already in the lab, engrossed in complex calculations on his workstation. At 45, Min was one of the institute's senior researchers, specializing in artificial intelligence applications in genetic science. "You're here early," she commented, setting down her bag. Min looked up, his round glasses reflecting the light from his screens. "I could say the same about you, especially considering you were here until dawn." He smiled knowingly. "The system logs your hours, you know." Lin An hesitated. She wasn't ready to share her discovery, not until she understood it better, but she needed help, and Min was one of the few colleagues she trusted completely. "I found something," she admitted, lowering her voice. "Something that might prove my theory about cellular memory." Min's eyebrows shot up. "Show me." She led him to her workstation and unlocked the secured files from the previous night. As the fragmented images and emotional data appeared, Min's expression changed from skepticism to wonder. "This was encoded in DNA," he asked, adjusting his glasses. "Your mother's DNA?" She nodded. "It's exactly what I predicted. Sensory and emotional data, not linguistic information. The memories aren't stored as narratives, but as experiences." "But what are these memories of?" Min asked, studying the strange landscapes and ancient structures. "And how old are they?" "I don't know yet," Lin An admitted. "The algorithm can only extract fragments. I need a more sophisticated AI to process the data fully, to connect the pieces." Min stroked his chin thoughtfully. "I've been developing a neural mapping algorithm that might help. It's designed to reconstruct fragmented neural pathways, but it could be adapted for this kind of data." "Could you help me?" Lin An asked, her excitement building. "This could be the breakthrough we've both been working toward." "Of course," Min agreed. "But, Lin An, we need to be careful. If you found a way to access hereditary memories, there are people who would go to extreme lengths to control that technology." She nodded, thinking of the corporate giants like Gencor that dominated the biotechnology landscape. "We'll keep it between us for now, and to yet. I'll need her help with the samples." What neither of them realized was that their conversation wasn't as private as they believed. In a different wing of the institute, a maintenance worker was replacing ceiling panels near an air duct that ran between the laboratories. The worker paused, pressing a small device against the duct before continuing his task. In the Gencor monitoring station, a technician transcribed the conversation he'd just heard through the listening device. Tran Hu would be very interested in this development. Over the next weeks, Lin An, Min, and Tuyet worked tirelessly on the project. Min adapted his neural mapping algorithm to process the genetic memory data, while Tuyet helped collect and analyze additional samples. Lin An focused on refining the extraction process, developing a more precise method for isolating the memory encoding sequences. Their breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Min's algorithm successfully connected several fragmented memories from Lin An's maternal DNA, creating a more coherent sequence of images and emotions. The three researchers gathered around the holographic display, watching in awe as the scene unfolded. They saw mountains, specifically the highlands of northwestern Vietnam. The perspective shifted, moving through ancient villages that none of them recognized from historical records. The emotional signatures were intense: fear, determination, and a profound sense of loss. "These memories," Lin An said softly. "They're ancient, possibly thousands of years old, passed down through maternal DNA." But what event could have been traumatic enough to be encoded genetically? Tuyet wondered. The final images in the sequence showed people fleeing, carrying bundles of herbs and plants. There were glimpses of sickness, of bodies covered in strange lesions. "It looks like a pandemic," Min observed. "Some kind of ancient disease outbreak." Lin An felt a chill run down her spine. "We need more samples. If this memory exists in my maternal line, it might exist in others, especially people from the northwestern highlands." "You're thinking of going there?" Tuyet asked. "To collect samples from the ethnic minorities?" Lin An nodded. "It's the only way to confirm whether these are isolated memories or part of a collective genetic history." Min looked concerned. "That's remote territory, and collecting genetic samples from indigenous communities raises ethical questions." "We'll be transparent about our research," Lin An assured him, "and we'll follow all ethical protocols. But this is too important to ignore." What they didn't discuss was the most troubling implication. If ancient traumatic memories could be genetically encoded, what did that suggest about humanity's past? What catastrophes had been severe enough to alter our very DNA? 2 days later, Lin An arrived at her apartment after another late night at the lab to find her door slightly ajar. She froze, instantly alert. She was certain she had locked it that morning. Cautiously, she pushed the door open. Nothing seemed disturbed in the living area, but when she entered her home office, she immediately noticed that her personal computer had been moved slightly from its usual position. A thorough check confirmed her suspicions. Someone had accessed her computer. The security logs showed that files had been copied, including personal research notes she kept separate from the Institute's servers. Lin An's hands trembled as she called Min. "Someone broke into my apartment," she told him. "They accessed my research notes." "GenCore," Min said grimly. "It has to be. They must have learned about our discovery. We need to accelerate our plans," Lin An decided. "Can you be ready to leave for the northwestern highlands by tomorrow?" "So soon?" Min sounded surprised. "What about proper preparations?" "We don't have time," she insisted. "If GenCore is already moving against us, we need to gather more evidence before they interfere further." After ending the call, Lin An began packing essential equipment, her mind racing. The break-in confirmed what she had feared. Her discovery was too valuable to remain secret for long. But she was determined not to let corporate interests control technology that could reshape humanity's understanding of its own past. The next morning, Lin An, Min, and Tuyet met at the Institute to gather the necessary equipment for their expedition. They worked quietly, telling colleagues they were conducting routine field research. As they loaded the last of their gear into the Institute's research vehicle, Lin An noticed a black car parked across the street, the same one she had glimpsed days earlier. Her unease grew. "We're being watched," she murmured to Min. "We need to leave now." The journey to the northwestern highlands took them through rapidly changing landscapes, from Hanoi's urban sprawl to terraced rice fields, and finally to the mist-shrouded mountains near the Chinese border. Here, various ethnic minority groups had maintained their traditional ways of life, despite the technological advancements of the lowlands. Their destination was a remote Hmong village that had been relatively isolated throughout history, making it an ideal location to search for preserved genetic memories. The village elder, a woman named Mai, greeted them with cautious hospitality after Lin An explained their research through an interpreter. We seek to understand memories that may be carried in the blood, passed from mother to child across many generations. Lin An explained, "With your permission, we would like to collect small samples from volunteers in your community." Mai studied Lin An's face carefully before responding. "Our people have always believed that we carry the wisdom of our ancestors within us, not just in our minds, but in our bodies. Perhaps your science is finally catching up to what we have always known." With the elder's blessing, several villagers agreed to provide DNA samples. As Tuyet processed the samples in their mobile lab, Lin An and Min explained their research to curious community members, showing them simplified visualizations of DNA and the concept of genetic memory. That evening, as they began preliminary analysis of the samples, Min made a startling discovery. "Lin An, look at this," he called, pointing to his tablet screen. "The memory encoding sequence we found in your maternal DNA. It's present in over 80% of the samples we've collected here." Lin An stared at the data in amazement. "This confirms it's not an isolated phenomenon. These memories are part of a shared genetic history." "But there's more," Min continued, his voice tense. "I've been able to extract clearer emotional signatures from these samples. They all contain the same core emotions: terror, grief, and determination to survive." "Something catastrophic happened here," Lin An whispered. "Something that affected these people's ancestors so profoundly that it became encoded in their DNA." Outside their temporary lab, the mountain night was alive with sounds: insects chirping, distant music from the village celebration in their honor, the soft rustling of wind through bamboo. But inside, a heavy silence fell as they contemplated the implications of their discovery. "We need to combine all the samples," Lin An decided finally. "Use your algorithm to create a more complete picture of these memories. If we can understand what happened here in the past, it might help us understand why these memories were preserved genetically." As Min worked on the combined analysis, Lin An stepped outside for fresh air. The night sky above the mountains was brilliant with stars, untouched by the light pollution of the cities. She found herself wondering how many generations had looked up at this same sky, carrying the same memories in their cells that she was now trying to decode. Her phone buzzed with a message from Tuyet. "Call me urgently." Concerned, Lin An called immediately. Tuyet answered in a whisper. "They're here," she said, her voice trembling. "GenCore. 2 men came to the Institute asking questions about our whereabouts. They claim to be government officials, but security recognized their GenCore identification when they checked in." Lin An's blood ran cold. "Are you safe?" "For now," Tuyet replied. "I'm staying with a friend." "But Lin An, they were very interested in our research data. They demanded access to our servers." "Did they get anything?" "No. The security protocols you implemented protected the data, but I'm worried they might try more aggressive methods." "Stay hidden," Lin An instructed. "Don't go back to the Institute or your apartment. We'll return as soon as we can." After ending the call, Lin An hurried back to tell Min. His face grew grave as he listened. "We need to accelerate our work here," he said, "and we need a backup plan in case GenCore tries to seize our research." They worked through the night, processing the combined samples and refining the neural mapping algorithm. By dawn, they had created the most complete reconstruction yet of the ancient genetic memories. The holographic display showed a panoramic view of the very mountains where they now stood. But in a distant past, perhaps thousands of years earlier, they watched as a thriving community was suddenly struck by illness. The symptoms were horrifying: rapid cellular deterioration, extreme pain, and death within days. But the most chilling aspect was revealed in the final sequences: images of what appeared to be early scientific equipment, primitive laboratories where something had gone terribly wrong. This wasn't a natural pandemic, Lin An realized with growing horror. It was a genetically engineered virus, a prehistoric attempt at biotechnology that went catastrophically wrong. Min stared at the images in disbelief. Are you saying that ancient civilizations had advanced enough to manipulate genetics? Not advanced as we would understand it, Lin An replied, her mind racing to make sense of what they were seeing. But perhaps they had developed biological techniques we've never discovered. Techniques that were lost when the disaster occurred. The implications were staggering. The memories suggested that humanity had faced near extinction from a genetically engineered pathogen in ancient times. A disaster so traumatic that the warning had been encoded into the DNA of survivors, passed down through countless generations. We need to get this information back to Hanoi, Min said urgently. If these memories are accurate, they could contain crucial information about biological threats that modern science hasn't even considered. As they packed their equipment, Lin An couldn't shake a growing sense of foreboding. The ancient catastrophe they had uncovered felt ominously relevant to their present situation. Humanity once again possessed the power to manipulate genes. But did they have the wisdom to avoid repeating ancient mistakes? They bid farewell to the village elder, promising to share their findings once their research was complete. As their vehicle descended from the mountains, Lin An tried repeatedly to contact Tuyet, but received no response. Something's wrong, she told Min. Tuyet always answers her messages. Her fear was confirmed when they reached a small town with network coverage and received an encrypted message from one of their colleagues at the institute. GenCorps agents took Tuyet, claimed government authority. Institute director protesting but powerless. Return with caution. Lin An's hands clenched into fists. They've gone too far. We need to get back to Hanoi immediately. And do what? Min asked, his voice tense. GenCorps is one of the most powerful corporations in Asia. They have government connections, private security forces. We have the truth, Lin An interrupted. And now, we have evidence of something that goes beyond corporate interests. This is about humanity's survival, past and potentially future. They drove through the night, taking turns at the wheel, their precious data backed up on multiple secure devices. As dawn broke and Hanoi appeared on the horizon, Lin An made a decision. We can't go back to the institute, she told Min. It's the first place they'll look for us. Where then? I have a friend, Dao. He runs an independent tech lab in the old quarter. We can use his equipment to complete our analysis. Dao's lab turned out to be the converted top floor of a colonial-era building, filled with a chaotic array of cutting-edge and salvage technology. Dao himself was a former institute colleague who had left mainstream science to pursue more experimental research. GenCorps, huh? He said after hearing their story. Those vultures have been trying to monopolize genetic technology for years. Consider my lab your sanctuary. With Dao's help, they set up their equipment and began the final phase of their research, using advanced AI to fully process and interpret the combined genetic memories from all their samples. We need to interface the AI directly with the genetic data. Lin An explained to Dao. Create a virtual environment where the artificial intelligence can experience the encoded memories as if they were its own. That's theoretically possible, Dao said, scratching his beard. But it would require enormous processing power and a neural interface more sophisticated than anything commercially available. Can you build it? Min asked. Dao grinned. Give me 12 hours. While Dao worked on the neural interface, Lin An and Min tried to locate Tuyet. Through underground contacts, they learned she was being held at GenCorps' research facility on the outskirts of Hanoi. They're likely trying to extract information about our research, Min said grimly. If they realize what we've discovered, they'll want to weaponize it, Lin An finished. Imagine being able to access ancient knowledge encoded in DNA, or worse, being able to implant new memories into the genetic code of future generations. The implications were terrifying. Control of genetic memory technology would give unprecedented power over human evolution and consciousness itself. By evening, Dao had constructed his neural interface, a helmet-like device connected to a quantum processing unit that filled half the room. "It's ready," he announced. "But I should warn you, this kind of direct AI genetic interface has never been attempted before. We have no idea what will happen when artificial intelligence directly processes human genetic memories." Lin An nodded gravely. "We have no choice. We need to understand these memories completely if we're going to stop GenCore from misusing the technology." They loaded their combined genetic data into the system and initiated the interface. On the main screen, they could see a visualization of the AI's processing, like a consciousness moving through layers of ancient memories, connecting fragments into coherent experiences. Hours passed as the AI worked, reconstructing events that had occurred thousands of years ago. Lin An, Min, and Dao watched in fascination as the screen displayed increasingly detailed scenes from humanity's forgotten past. The story that emerged was both wondrous and horrifying. The ancient civilization had developed methods to modify plants for medicinal purposes, eventually advancing to manipulate more complex organisms. Their techniques were different from modern genetic engineering, more holistic, working with entire living systems rather than isolated genes. But their greatest achievement became their downfall. In attempting to create a therapy for a devastating illness, they inadvertently developed a pathogen that attacked the cellular structure of all human tissues. The pandemic spread rapidly, killing millions. The survivors, mostly isolated communities in remote highlands, encoded a warning in their cellular structure, a memory of the catastrophe meant to prevent future generations from repeating their mistake. "This is incredible," Min whispered as the final sequences played out. An ancient civilization developed biotechnology, advanced enough to threaten their own existence, and the survivors evolved a genetic memory system to warn future generations. "And we're just now decoding that warning," Lin An added, "at precisely the moment when our own genetic technology has advanced to potentially dangerous levels." Their revelation was interrupted by an urgent alert from Dao's security system. "Someone's trying to access the building's network," he warned. "Sophisticated intrusion attempt." "GenCore," Lin An said. "They must have tracked us here." "We need to finish the analysis and secure the data," Min urged. "How much longer?" Dao checked the system. "The AI is in the final integration phase. 10 minutes, maybe less." They worked frantically to accelerate the process, aware that time was running out. Outside, they heard vehicles pulling up to the building. "They're here," Dao said, moving to secure the door. "I'll try to slow them down." Lin An turned to Min. "We need to ensure this information reaches the scientific community. No matter what happens to us, the world needs to know about the ancient catastrophe and the warning encoded in our DNA." Min nodded, quickly preparing a data package for transmission to multiple secure servers around the world. Meanwhile, Lin An made a more personal decision. Using Dao's equipment, she injected herself with a compound she had developed, one that would temporarily enhance her own cellular memory retrieval. "What are you doing?" Min asked in alarm. "Insurance," she replied grimly. "If they take our data, they won't be able to take what's in my own cells." They heard shouting from below, followed by the sound of the building's main door being forced open. "Transmission complete," Min announced. "The data is secure on servers in 7 countries." The AI interface chimed, indicating completion of its analysis. The final report contained the full reconstruction of the ancient memories, including crucial details about the pandemic and how the survivors had contained it. "Download complete," Lin An confirmed, removing the secure data crystal as heavy footsteps echoed on the stairs outside. The door burst open, and armed security personnel in GenCorp uniforms stormed in, followed by a slender woman in an expensive suit, Tran Hugh, GenCorp's head of competitive intelligence. "Dr. Lin An," Hugh said with a cold smile, "you've led us on quite a chase. I believe you have something that belongs to GenCorp." "Nothing here belongs to GenCorp," Lin An replied defiantly. "This research was conducted independently at the Institute of Cellular Biology. Research based on proprietary genetic analysis techniques developed under GenCorp patents," Hugh countered smoothly. "But we can discuss legal technicalities later. For now, I'll take your data and equipment." She nodded to her security team, who began confiscating their devices. "Where is Tuyet?" Lin An demanded. "Your people took her illegally." "Your assistant is being well treated," Hugh assured her. "She's helping us understand certain aspects of your research. She'll be released once we've verified her information." Lin An felt a surge of anger. "You have no right." "I have every right," Hugh interrupted. "GenCorp has been designated a strategic national asset by the government. Our pursuit of advanced genetic technology is considered essential to national security." As they argued, Min caught Lin An's eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. The data was safe, distributed beyond GenCorp's reach. "Now," Hugh continued, "you will accompany us to GenCorp headquarters and provide a full briefing on your discoveries regarding cellular memory encoding." "And if I refuse?" Hugh's smile tightened. "Then your colleague Tuyet may face charges of corporate espionage. I believe the penalty is quite severe." Lin An felt trapped. But the compound she had injected was beginning to take effect. She could feel a strange sensation spreading through her body, as if distant memories were becoming more accessible, rising to the surface of her consciousness. "Very well," she said finally. "I'll come with you." As GenCorp security escorted them from the building, Lin An whispered to Min, "Whatever happens, the truth will emerge. The memories cannot be suppressed forever." At GenCorp headquarters, a gleaming tower of glass and steel in Hanoi's financial district, Lin An was separated from Min and taken to a sterile laboratory where a team of scientists waited with sophisticated equipment. "Dr. An," Hugh said, gesturing to the apparatus, "you will demonstrate your memory extraction technique using this equipment." Lin An surveyed the lab, noting that GenCorp had already replicated much of her research setup. "Where is Tuyet?" she asked again. "I want to see her before I cooperate." Hugh sighed impatiently, but nodded to an assistant, who left the room. Minutes later, Tuyet was brought in, looking tired but unharmed. "Lin An," she exclaimed. "I'm so sorry they came to my apartment. I didn't tell them anything important. I promise." "It's okay," Lin An assured her. "Are you all right?" Tuyet nodded. "They've been questioning me about our research, but I've only given them basic information." Hia cleared her throat. "Now that you've confirmed your colleague's well-being, shall we proceed?" Reluctantly, Lin An began explaining her techniques, deliberately omitting crucial details and introducing subtle errors that would prevent GenCorp from fully replicating her work. All the while, the compound in her system continued to enhance her access to her own cellular memories. As she worked, fragmented images flashed through her mind, not just the ancient catastrophe they had discovered, but more recent memories from her maternal lineage. Suddenly, a particular memory surfaced with startling clarity. Her mother, younger than Lin An had ever known her, working in a laboratory that looked remarkably like GenCorp. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Her mother had worked for GenCorp, perhaps on early cellular memory research. Was that why Lin An had been drawn to this field? Was that why her mother's DNA contained such strong memory encodings? She struggled to maintain her composure as more fragments emerged. Her mother arguing with colleagues, ethical concerns about memory manipulation, a decision to leave GenCorp, and later, the neurological condition that had ultimately claimed her life. Lin Ann's hands trembled as she connected the dots. Had her mother's illness been natural, or something more sinister? Had GenCore silenced a scientist who threatened to expose ethical concerns? Her thoughts were interrupted by an alarm from one of the monitoring stations. A GenCore scientist looked up in alarm. "There's been a massive data breach," he announced. "Someone has released research files to multiple scientific institutions worldwide." Hugh's expression darkened. "What files?" "Everything on the cellular memory project, including Dr. Ann's research and internal GenCore documents about previous experiments." Lin Ann realized. He must have triggered the release remotely. The truth was out, not just about the ancient catastrophe, but about GenCore's own unethical research. Hugh turned to Lin Ann, fury in her eyes. "What have you done?" But before she could respond, another alarm sounded, this one from the building's security system. "Security breach in the main lobby," a voice announced over the intercom. "Government authorities entering the building." Confusion spread through the laboratory as the door burst open, revealing a team of officers from Vietnam's Technology Ethics Enforcement Division, a recently formed government agency tasked with preventing corporate abuses of emerging technologies. "Tran Hugh," the lead officer announced. "You are under investigation for illegal human experimentation, corporate espionage, and kidnapping. GenCore's operations are suspended, pending a full investigation." As Hugh was led away, protesting vehemently, Lin An learned that Dow had contacted government authorities with evidence of GenCore's illegal activities, evidence he had been collecting for years as part of an underground watchdog network. In the chaotic hours that followed, Lin An, Min, and Tuyet were debriefed by government officials. The cellular memory research had caused a sensation in the scientific community, with researchers worldwide confirming their findings about genetically encoded memories of an ancient catastrophe. More disturbing were the revelations about GenCore's own research, including experiments attempting to implant artificial memories into human DNA, creating a form of genetic programming that could influence future generations. Among the released files were records confirming that Lin Ann's mother had indeed worked for GenCore before resigning in protest over ethical concerns. 3 months later, Lin An stood before an international scientific conference in Singapore, presenting the complete findings of their research. The hall was packed with scientists, ethicists, and government representatives from around the world. "The ancient memories we've decoded contain both a warning and a gift," she explained, showing visualizations of the genetic memory sequences. "They warn us about the catastrophic potential of genetic manipulation without ethical constraints. But they also demonstrate humanity's remarkable resilience, our ability to encode crucial information for future generations at the cellular level." She outlined the implications: a new understanding of human evolution, potential therapeutic applications for genetic trauma, and the profound philosophical questions raised by the existence of cellular memory. "We stand at a crossroads," she concluded. "With this technology, we could heal generational trauma encoded in our DNA, but we could also create new forms of control and manipulation. The choice before us is whether to use this knowledge for collective healing or for power over others." After the presentation, as scientists gathered around her with questions and congratulations, Lin An noticed Min standing quietly at the edge of the crowd. She made her way to him. "Thinking about what comes next?" she asked. He nodded thoughtfully. "GenCore was just one corporation. Others will pursue this technology, perhaps with even fewer ethical constraints. Which is why we need to establish international protocols." Lin An replied. "The United Nations has already formed a committee on genetic memory ethics, and they've asked me to participate." "And will you?" She smiled slightly. "I've accepted. Someone needs to ensure this technology serves humanity rather than controlling it." That evening, back in her hotel room, Lin An opened the small refrigerated container she always carried with her now, the one containing a sample of her own DNA. The compound she had injected herself with had permanently enhanced her ability to access her cellular memories, creating a unique connection to her maternal lineage stretching back thousands of years. She placed the sample into a portable analyzer of her own design. On the small screen, she could see her own genetic memory encodings, not just the ancient catastrophe, but newer memories being formed, her discoveries, her struggles against GenCore, her determination to protect the technology. All were being written into her DNA, potentially to be passed to future generations. Lin An closed the analyzer and walked to the window, looking out at Singapore's futuristic skyline. Humanity had come full circle, rediscovering a capacity for genetic memory that ancient peoples had utilized thousands of years ago. The question now was whether modern humans would heed the warnings encoded in their very cells, or repeat the mistakes of the distant past. She thought of the image that had appeared repeatedly in the ancient memories, a double helix breaking apart and reforming, stronger than before. Perhaps that was the true message, that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to learn, adapt, and rebuild, carrying forward the wisdom of the past while creating new possibilities for the future. The next morning, as dawn broke over the city, Lin An made a decision. She would continue her research, but with a new focus, developing techniques to help people access and heal their own cellular memories. The technology was too powerful to be controlled by corporations or governments. It belonged to humanity as a whole, a birthright encoded in every cell of every person. As she prepared for another day of presentations and discussions, Lin An felt a strange sensation, almost as if the ancient voices preserved in her DNA were whispering their approval. The code hidden in human DNA had finally been recognized, not just as a record of physical traits, but as the collective memory of a species, a living library of experiences, warnings, and wisdom passed down through countless generations. And now, that library was open for all to read.